getting to the finish, a couple of green white checkered finishes at the end there, and we end up with where we are, where Ryan Newman gets absolutely clobbered.
So
And Adam, take it from there and just tell us what you want to go.
let's talk about the last lap before the crash. I'm not a big Denny Hamlin fan. I'm not a big proponent that super speedway racing is very good racing. Just because when the 40th place car can keep up with the first place car, something's weird. But Denny Hamlin on that last lap, with all the blocking we saw all week long, for him to be smart enough to not block Ryan Newman and Ryan Blaney because he knew they were coming with too big a head of steam. So for Newman to back up to Blaney, get the run on Hamlin, for Hamlin not to make that block, watch Newman go by. As Newman's going by, Blaney backs off in Newman's back bumper as Denny Hamlin gets down behind him and starts pushing him. Like, to watch the small, intricate details of what these drivers were doing on the last lap to put themselves in a position to win the race was absolutely amazing. Like, every move that was made and Jeff Gordon's excitement of calling every move that was made. Like, it was just really, really fantastic. And even out of turn 4, as luck would have it, like Newman coming down the track as Blaney was getting sideways, and which caused him to follow him down the track. Like, it was just such an amazing lap of action. And I don't know, could you sense that watching it live? Like, could you kind of see all that was going on?
Mike?
Yeah, I think to me, I think the thing you're watching for in those last couple of laps, like, all right, who's going to be the poor guy that's going into the fence? Like, you can just tell by, it's Daytona. Every race ends, similar. They're going to wreck a bunch of shit. Let's be fair. I'll just say it that way because that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I was shocked that they made it as far as they did before they started wrecking stuff. I think it was it Chase Elliott got stuffed in the wall going into one, and they didn't throw the yellow. They just let him race because Elliott came down the bank and he kept going kind of. And but you knew something was going to happen because, again, you're watching them down the backstretch. They're all squirrely. Everybody's all over each other. Again, this is the Daytona 500. This is the biggest race of the year. Those guys are all going for it. Did you expect to see what you did with the Newman and all that? I didn't expect it for that car to get airborne and everything that I saw, but I expected somebody to go into the fence a ton. I expected somebody that might not necessarily think was going to win. Usually it's the guy running third or fourth that ends up somehow miraculously finding his way through all of that and to win the race. But I mean, other than, sitting in the stands and everything and watching it all transpire, I mean, with the Newman stuff, that kind of took everything out of the end of the race. Like, you're watching the race, you're like, holy crap, this is such a good finish. And then you're like, nobody knew. Like, my whole section, the wreck happened and ended right in front of us is where Newman came to a stop. Nobody said a word. Nobody talked, nobody breathed. I mean, we all just stayed there. Like, every one of us stayed. Nobody left our section when the race was over. You just all sat there. And unfortunately, that kind of took, the excitement of everything that we were watching prior to that out of it. You know what I mean? Like, again, we all love racing and we want to see that,
Let's come back to that. Clint, give your reflection on the last lap, because I want to come back to the point that Mike ended on.
Yeah, I definitely want to elaborate on that. I have a lot to talk about the mood and the way everybody kind of came together and the thought process. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop for damn near 30 minutes there. But no, it was exciting. It was your typical finish. Like Mike said, you knew something was going to happen. And then you see the spectacular crash. And, I mean, you expect Ryan Newman, the car's flipped over. And typically what they've been doing is they flip them back on their wheels. And then the driver gets out. So it didn't seem exorbitantly long that he was on his roof. I just remember looking at the big screen and we could see fluid dripping down, out of the back of the car all onto it, but the fire crew was there. So we just expected Ryan to get out of the car right away. And then, it doesn't happen. You get no report. They're doing victory lane. And you're like, all right. And we're announcers. So, okay. And we know what it's like when you're going through that. You're kind of trying to edge the officials, like, come on, man, give me something I can give the fans. Anything. Like, is he talking? Is he looking at you guys? Is he blinking? Like, give us something. And the fact that there was nothing, I think, initially was the hardest part. There's a lot more to talk about, but I'll leave it at that. it was a wake up call of reality, I think. And I think for probably a good 5 to 10 minutes, Mike, you were there. We kind of all felt like it was going to be. And I kept thinking about you guys, Adam, at home watching and thinking, they always do this injustice, and they're probably switching to Sports Center, and everybody's going to be left hanging like we were with Dale Earnhardt. And then we're dreading, is it going to be a dinner time announcement with Mike Hilton like we had last time, and 20 years ago? And that was the feeling we got. We all felt that this was a grave situation right off the bat because there was no news.
And once it switched, there was a moment in time, and it was when, for me, I believe the car was upside down for about 7 minutes. I've watched a few videos just trying to pick up different things. When the car stayed upside down for as long as it did, you realize how serious the situation was. But once that shifted, and it didn't take long for the mood to shift, it got, like, it didn't gradually go that direction. It got really somber really fast. Over the course of the next 2 to 3 hours, the messages I received, Clinton, and I'm just up here pounding away on Facebook, and I'm keeping up with things, and I have a lot of friends in the sport, friends in the business. I got a couple of messages that confirmed he had passed away from people who should be in the know, like people who are well-informed people. It is crazy the way information circulated in the hours between the announcement from NASCAR that Ryan Newman was in serious but non-life-threatening condition, and backing up to the moment of the accident.
Yeah, to me, go ahead, Clint.
Go ahead, Mike.
It felt like an eternity. We're leaving the track, and Adam, you and I were chatting, back and forth, and it felt like forever. And again, sitting there watching, you don't know. And then they bring the black screens out, and they're trying to cover up what's going on. Now we were in the second deck, so that doesn't block any view. But to me, the thing that gave me a little bit of hope was how careful they were with what they were doing. They weren't just trying to rip him out of that race car and get him on the stretcher and get him out of there. They took their time. They cut that car apart. They made sure they brought him out the right way. I mean, even when they flipped it over, it was the most ginger flip over I've seen ever. They had 2 hooks on the car. They really slowly rolled it over. They set it down very carefully. And to me, that tells me it's not good. The guy's not doing well, but they're also worried about his safety and what's going to happen to him when they, if they slam that car down or whatnot. So that gave me a glimmer of hope, per se, that, hey, you know what, it's serious, but we're not experiencing the awfulness that your mind immediately goes to. Because again, like you, I expected that once the car stopped, I expected him to crawl out that window, out of the race car and walk away and be pissed off like most guys are when that happens, and we move on to the next race. And when that doesn't happen, that kind of that worries you. It makes you think. So I mean, again, thankfully, I mean, again, it took the hour and a half or whatever it was. But thankfully, what they released, they didn't. I would rather have no information than all the bull crap, that you go through. Adam, again, we were chatting, like, you don't know, like, and you have some sources and some people, and you ask, like, hey, what do you know? And they can't, they only got what they've heard. And again, it just, it spirals out of control. But I thought everybody did a pretty good job. I'll give even the NASCAR media folks there. Everybody waited for the official prognosis. There wasn't any hearsay. There wasn't any this happened, this happened, this happened. I mean, from what I saw on Twitter and Facebook and all that. So, I mean, that's pretty good in this situation, because when something happens like this, even you looked at, the sad day of Kobe Bryant there a couple weeks ago. There was reports that all of his kids, all that, like, you didn't see any of that. It was very professionally done. Nobody went ahead and said anything they didn't know for fact. And when the information came out, we got the right information.
Yeah, the long-range game was excellent, I thought, by NASCAR. The safety crew did a great job. I was not pleased. I was really disappointed in the short term how NASCAR and TV together handled the situation. Just with Denny Hamlin doing donuts. There's a lot of communication that goes on, and it doesn't stop after the checkered flag. I just thought there was a lot of things that could have been handled better. They didn't need to declare a winner as quick as they did just to prevent anyone from doing donuts And that's another thing. You know, you didn't see a lot of reviews of that finish when the yellow came out. I take them at their word. Denny Hamlin won the race.
I got one for
but
you.
There's a lot.
I have a friend of mine that works for NASCAR, and we were actually talking about this at dinner tonight. So I sent him a text. I said, all right, how did, the winner get decided? When did the scoring stop, whatever? And he sent back to me that the TV broadcast, they are not connected to the NASCAR loop. Like, they're not connected. So when they turn the yellow on, it doesn't mean it's the NASCAR yellow. He said the 3 cars crossed the line. Whoever the top, what was it? Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Chris Buescher. They crossed the line. Then the yellow came out, and then that's when they froze the field. So they let those guys race it to the line. And then the yellow came out. So, I see the pictures of Blaney, everybody giving NASCAR a bunch of crap about that. Well, the yellow wasn't.
Yeah, that's bogus. That's bogus. You're right.
Right.
What troubles me about that, I have a problem with not. Listen, I know you want a picture of the winner of the race coming under the checkered flag at that line, but when a car hits the wall, driver's side at 200 miles an hour, throw the yellow. Like, immediately. Don't wait, because there's still, and Corey LaJoie says as well, I'm going 200 miles an hour. We got to get the best finish we can in the Daytona 500. And we have tried for so long to get away from that mentality of racing through a yellow. I mean, now that we look back, these are opinions you can't share at the time out of respect for everything that's involved. But Corey LaJoie would have been ruined. If he drove through somebody and killed him in that wreck, there's a very, that changes your life forever. Changes Ryan Newman's life, obviously, but just little things. And I know those are decisions that are tough to make on no notice at all. But when the first instinct isn't to safety, 100% safety, boom, yellow, like the leader just crashed into the wall just before the start finish line, freeze the field, throw the yellow. Pray to goodness that there's still 20 cars racing through at 200 miles an hour. You better hope most of them start to back it down, which wouldn't have helped Corey LaJoie, because he was right in the midst of it while it happened. So a lot of things I'm hypercritical of, but I see how the rooms go. I see how the decisions get made, and they're usually the right decisions. I just felt uncomfortable with that one.
Well, I think for you and I, Adam, we've lived through the passing of Art Hill while we're announcing there at the track, and it was a lot, we've been through it, and it's tough to deal with from the media side. It's also tough to deal with from an official side, because on the short tracks, we're all basically track officials as well, although it suits us when we want to be officials, but not my call when we just want to be announcers either.